The question sometimes gets asked, is silver a safe haven? Yeah, it definitely is. Is it a get rich quick scheme? Not necessarily. Anything could be, but it may be longer term. There's going to be a bubble, but I said just like bitcoins could be even a get rich quick scheme. Not now, but you got in it early and you sold it to the suckers. Basically, what's going on there. Yeah, it's a get rich quick scheme, but silver is a safe haven. Even though, I wanted to psychologically warn people that it possibly could go down. The reason I mentioned was because of reported earnings that will be coming out for the first quarter of 2013. That typically can knock the stock prices down, which may knock down silver, which is an industrial metal. But is silver a safe haven, even though it's industrial metal also? Yeah, I know it has two hats and stuff. In a way, yes, it is. Because the inflationary pressures will come out. We're not going to experience deflation. The only reason we're not seeing major price increases in the commodity sector and actually in general in your retail sector, because actually retail actually was down. It was one of the worst areas in the jobs market. The retail sector, that's where they lay off the most. But the reason we're not seeing inflation in those areas because all the money printing is actually being held in the top banks. It's basically they're doing an asset swap. But this is an age-old principle I want to relay here. The central banks print money, print money, print money. And it's like building up behind a wall of a dam, like water building up behind a dam. And all of a sudden, it's like there's a limit. I mean, there's absolutely no way the Federal Reserve can unwind its balance sheet and not cause a major ripple effect someplace when all that money comes out or those bad assets come out. It's going to create problems no matter how they do it. So basically right now, everything's being swept under the rug. It's paper shuffling. They're printing money, but it's not actually getting in the system per se. If this money was actually, even though we'd be experiencing inflation, it would probably be stimulating the economy more. See, when Ben Bernanke does say he wants to stimulate the economy and all this type of stuff through money printing, actually it's only going to the top people. It's shoring up the top banks. That's what's going on. Any troubled assets they got, they're unloading. They're putting them on the Federal Reserve balance sheet. And in turn, the Federal Reserve is giving them dollars. Now, that is actually keeping the Dow up because some of these top banks are part of the makeup in the Dow. So, and then where do they invest the money? Eventually that money is going to start trickling out in different places. That's just something that Mark Farber alludes to. It creates various bubbles. So, but silver is still a safe haven. It's just that you just can't think of it like a daily, if you're buying physical silver, you shouldn't be thinking about some kind of quick trade anyway, unless you could buy it for under spot and sell it for over spot. But typically with the average person, they buy it over spot and they sell it for under spot or spot at best. So you definitely don't do that. You don't buy physical silver for short-term investment anyway. But it is a safe haven because this inflation is going to hit the economy. We're not going to have deflation. Another hint out there is like in Japan, they're having a 1.5 trillion yen stimulus program, which is like going into uncharted territory, basically. George Soros is even warning about that. I mean, he doesn't just lie all the time. I mean, people think he's an evil guy all the way, but he doesn't just lie all the time, to tell you the truth. Even that guy's got some good in him. He's a major proponent of, the hemp and the marijuana, medicinal marijuana. He's also a guy that, I could say some good things about him. Hey, he also points out, what goes on even in he doesn't like the way the West is. Sometimes they're too belligerent, and they create a lot of wars in the world. And he doesn't like what's even going on with Russia because you got a lot of top people in there with a lot of money. I think Soros realizes that Putin is one of those guys too, himself, which some people in the U.S., they don't see it that way, but because he plays a good line. But to get back to the point, inflation's going to take over. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. But temporarily, can we see a pullback in silver a little bit more? Yeah. Is it going to go back to crazy prices like 15 or 18? Extremely doubtful. Extremely doubtful, because China's actually looking to buy it with their dollars, and gold. And the other thing is, the wealthy in China and the Chinese government. The other thing, long term, the U.S. is going to try to screw over China, basically, by defaulting on a debt or devaluing the hell out of the dollar. Basically it's probably going to be both those things. But, we only, the average person doesn't realize, most of the U.S. debt is actually bought by domestically by the largest financial institutions and everything. So you might see an actual, if they defaulted on a debt, there would be a financial collapse in the United States. It wouldn't actually affect China mainly. It would actually affect the United States. I want to point that out here because most of our debt is actually held domestically. That would all these like brand name organizations, I'm not going to give you a dozen of them or so, but all their annuities and insurance products and life insurance products and everything and retirement products, I guess they would all cave in somehow or another. There'd be a major financial collapse in the United States if the dollar collapsed. It wouldn't just be like so it wouldn't just be China. It wouldn't just be China. So, but I think that probably is planned. But, as far as the dollar going to oblivion zero when there's like debt default, I don't know about that. I have doubts about that because I think that's on the other side of the extreme. I don't think they're planning it that way. But silver is a safe haven. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I don't like what these other guys say because sometimes they'll say you want to have all these super rates of return. The dollar's going to zero. That's not correct. You might... If silver did a double, you should definitely dump a portion of it. There's no doubt about it. Don't worry about, the dollar going to oblivion. Don't worry about holding it forever. At one point in time, they're going to come up with something. You see, what's going to happen is, really the problem is, and just give you a common sense in a nutshell, we got a lot of little communist weasel bureaucrats in our financial system. Basically, I think that's the only way I can put it simplistically. It's that you got a lot of dishonesty too. When you actually have a piece of paper or a number, it's supposed to represent something in an accurate way. There's a lot of things going on where there's lies and bullshit. That's why the paper is not worth something. It's not that the paper system is a bad system. It's not that. It's just that it becomes dishonest. So at one point in time, there will be a restructuring, and then, maybe you'll see the price of silver crash in relation to other assets, but there is going to be a major run-up in silver in relation to other assets. Definitely. And people right now who believe totally in fiat paper, they're false Christians. Totally. I know it. And actually I've seen a lot of different flavors of that stuff. Not just around in, I'm not talking on the internet, but I've seen this many times, because actually there's people that think, silver's the money of God, and it doesn't, it is and it isn't. But if you had a piece of paper that represented an ounce of silver, or agricultural products, actually what it's going to come down to is you're probably going to have currency represented by a broad spectrum of commodities, and silver will be a part of that. Probably not a very major part of it. But where I say silver is going to go way up, there's going to be a panic by the middle class into the metal. After you see the curve start going up, they're going to get convinced more and more to dump into it. And, with all the silver bloggers out there, which are going to help that frenzy greatly, because they're going to be telling people it's the only money safe haven going. But for now, it is a safe haven. Don't lose heart in it, even though that's why I put out it may go down a little more, but it doesn't necessarily have to go down more. It might not break through 26. I don't know. But classic argument, though, is that the last time it pulls back, it should get a newer low. That's what I was thinking was going to happen in June of 2012. It should get a newer low. But that doesn't mean 18, 21. It may just be 24 and a half, 25. And just, I might go down a little bit below that and then take off. And that will be the final washout. It's been a long correction period because there's been a long bull run from 2010 and actually got a little bit ahead of itself. That's what happened. So the correction period goes on longer than expected. So that's why these people that are overly bullish on silver, and they could also be Christians too, because they're a little bit crackpots too, basically. But overall, the physical silver strategy right now is the way to be. It's not going to be forever though, because at one point in time, paper is going to represent the right stuff. It's not going to necessarily represent silver, but it's going to represent things that are tangible. That actually the value is actually reflected correctly. And if we have another reset, say there's a currency reset, I'd have to look at something like, say, the Commodity Research Bureau puts out an index of all the commodities across the board, and actually the energy sector is the most influential sector in that makeup of the index. So if we have a reset of the currency, it's probably going to be based mainly on energy, oil and natural gas, and it's going to be based upon agriculture, which includes livestock. It's going to be based upon all commodities like copper, aluminum, and everything else, and silver and gold. So silver and gold aren't going to play a major part of a commodity-based currency. Probably the energy sector and food sector is going to be the biggest area. And I'm doing this right from a financial guy. I'm telling you this right now. If I was sitting in a meeting for some shit, I'm not, definitely not. But I mean, I'd be playing pure logic. I wouldn't be saying, the people that are telling you that silver's going to be back in gold or going to be back in a new currency, they're way wrong too. It's going to be partly, but it's going to mainly be basically how the commodity index is today. It's going to be a whole host of things. And it may even include real estate values too, for all I know. It might be backed by some of that. But the problem is today, our paper currency is dishonest. It's not the fact that it's paper, it's dishonest. And your safety right now is silver. It is definitely silver. Definitely. There's no doubt about it. It's just that it may pull back a little bit more in the interim. But that's not 100% guaranteed. But like I said, it could be because of when the quarterly reports come out. That might pull the stock market down, which might pull the industrial commodities down, which is a number of other things going on, like very heavy buying pressure from coins and things like that, and other uncertainties going on in Cyprus and what's going on with their pensions and stuff like that. Like some people, they might cut their pensions even now if they don't approve something right now to something that's in the news that's coming out. Well, it's going to cause more and more people to buy silver and gold. So, I mean, there's some factors pro and some factors con right now, but overall, inflation's going to hit pretty hard. And so silver is an extremely good investment. That's typically the logic that in inflationary times, silver is a good investment to have. And some people are arguing there is no inflation. And actually they're correct. Right now there's no inflation. But like I said, it's like building up behind a wall of a dam. The water will trickle forth. The money will trickle out. And look at what Japan's doing. New uncharted territory. And when George Soros is saying that's very dangerous, don't dismiss his words like he's some evil guy and all this kind of garbage all the time, because there's elements of George Soros that are good and there's elements of George Soros that are bad. He's actually giving you the correct answer there. He's actually telling you what's going to happen. It's dangerous. And when the paper system falls apart, the little communist bureaucrats and stuff like that scatter. Because basically that's what we got in our financial world. We got a lot of little communist bureaucrats, and people are paying for all that shit. They just shuffle paper, and we got a large bureaucracy. I mean, I can kind of get off on a tangent here and say that if you look overall, what's wrong with the economy? Not many people are actually producing tangible things that people need. There's a lot of communist bureaucrats out there, desk jockey jackasses that don't do shit. And I'm not somebody that is not one of them, but I realize, I keep one foot in the other area too. But it's like there's a need for information. There's a need for financials. There's a need for accurate information to see where your profitability is. But we have an overabundance of bureaucrats in our economy right now, and a lot of it's due to governmental red tape, environmental red tape, regulations on so much bullshit that we got more people employed in stuff that doesn't actually do somebody any good. It's more like they're just shuffling paper, basically. So that there might be a washout in those kind of areas, and those type of people are the type of people that believe totally in paper, and they will look at silver and gold like it's like a rock. But there's plenty of false Christians around, and it's being a communist bureaucrat in the system is not being a Christian. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. Paper is not going to work right now. For the second, yes, but overall, that's a bad strategy. You're going to see a major devaluation in the dollar. Silver basically is very much a safe haven, and we will see a lot of inflation. The example I can probably bring out, because I don't like bringing this example out too much, because we're not going to go to this extreme. But in the Weimar Republic, silver and gold actually went down in price for a while before it freaking exploded and their money became worthless. It was like the unintended consequences of money printing. They think they just try to stimulate the economy a little more, a little more, a little more. Right now, it's all the money printing is being held in the top financial institutions on the balance sheets. Like I said, it's building up like behind the wall of a dam. Physical silver is a very, very smart bet right now. Later on, it's going to be one of the things that fleeces the crap out of the middle class. Later on. What price point? I don't know. It may very well hit the $400 or $500 an ounce at the very peak, but that peak could be very narrow. So if you're smart, you would be selling when you get big gains. If you get double, you should sell some. If you get triple, you should sell a little more. If you get some crazy quadruple, you should sell even more. And think about your next move. Silver is a safe haven. There's no doubt about it.